Okay, Jane, why don't you please call the roll?
Regent Bartel? Here. Regent Bradley? Regent Crane? Here. Regent Dene Davis?
Here.
Regent Drew?
Here.
Regent Evers?
Here.
Regent Falbo?
Here.
Regent Loftus? Regent Menedietz?
Here.
Regent Pointer? Regent Pruitt?
Here.
Regent Shervin? Regent Smith?
Here.
Regent Tyler?
Here.
Regent Spector?
Here.
Regent Vasquez?
Here.
Regent Walsh? Regent Womack?
Here.
A quorum is present.
Okay, thank you. The minutes of the April 7 and 8 and the May 3rd, 2011 meetings have been distributed. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as distributed? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes of those two meetings, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The minutes are approved. I am to tell you that there, and Mark would know, there's no report of the Wisconsin Technical College System Board at this moment because the meeting only occurred on Tuesday and Wednesday, as I understand it, of this week, and we'll have that report in September. I will start with my report. The first two brief things before I go into something a little more in depth. I wanted to tell you that within the last 10 days, and I don't remember the exact date, I participated in the dedication ceremony of the new UWM School of Public Health in downtown Milwaukee in the old Pabst Brewing Company area. Chuck was there as well. And I must say I was very pleased with what's occurred, not just the nature of the ceremony. The governor, Mayor Barrett was there, alderman from the area, Mike Lovell was there, the head of the Zilber Foundation, among others. And they did a very nice job, and it's a very tangible, important thing for the city of Milwaukee and for UW. But the two things that I wanted to comment about to you that I think are important, one is a little bit of history. If you remember when that topic first came up, it was in the context of whether or not the University of Wisconsin Medical School could change its name to the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine and Public Health. And there was very strong concern from Mayor Barrett at that time, manifested in a very passionate speech he gave to us about how important it was that there not be exclusivity in public health with UW-Madison School of Medicine only. And as we look back 5 years later, or look back and now 5 years later, I think we as a board should be pleased that we were very successful in working out what ultimately happened. That there is a UW School of Medicine and Public Health, and it does public health things in a very effective way throughout the state, including in Milwaukee, and there is a UW School of Public Health, and both have occurred. Neither was a detriment to the other. We found a way to make it happen that the best of both worlds could occur, and that was clear to me that day. The mayor was very pleased. Everybody's pleased that the School of Medicine and Public Health does very good work, not just in Milwaukee, but throughout the state in the public health area. Yet we have an entity close to the people in Milwaukee who will be especially well served by the research and the clinical work that will be done. So I thought that was very important. The second thing I wanted to point out was that day, at that ceremony, there was a lot of special thank yous, and two of them I think you should be aware of. One of them was to our fellow Regent Dene for all she had done to take on that topic as a special one of interest to her, and I think though she will be remembered for many things as a Regent, I think she'll be especially remembered for that. And you were especially remembered that day, and I'm sorry you were gone on vacation, but it was very nice. And the other was the many plaudits that were given by those who didn't have to do it for our David Miller, for the work he had done to help make that project a success, for finding practical ways to solve what seemed to be at some point insuperable financial or other problems. He came up with creative suggestions, working with Jeff and his committee, but I think it's important for me to say how public the thanks were for David and how proud I was that he was so helpful in that regard. Second, unrelated, I wanted to tell all of you that I've been working on the committee appointments. We do have some new chairs or continuing chairs of our permanent committees, but I'm very anxious to find places where people want to be. I've talked with some of you, and I will be happy to talk to anybody else who I haven't spoken with about what you'd like to do and try to make that happen as best I can as we go forward. So please find me if I haven't found you and talk about what you'd like to do as we move on. Turning to something more substantive, I'd like to say the following. Simply stated, 2011 has been a rather unusual year for the Regents. How's that for an understatement? Since January, we have experienced, among other things, a dramatic, spirited, and intense debate about the future of the UW system and the content of legislation that deeply affects the future of higher education in Wisconsin. Given the strong ties that we all have to this great university system, or what I like to call our land-grant university system, ties we share with so many citizens around this state, and our deeply felt concerns about what Wisconsin education, I would not have expected anything less. Now the time has come to look ahead, not back. As we discussed yesterday, we have tremendous challenges, but we also have path-breaking opportunities. As we create a context in which our chancellors can best manage significant funding cuts, we also face a new landscape that includes long-sought leadership flexibilities and statutory changes that will affect all our universities and colleges. To fully realize the potential in these opportunities, we must learn from the differences that have occasionally divided us and leverage our shared strengths to move forward for the benefit of all. As we assess the new landscape, we will be taking renewed measure of what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. These are vital questions, and the answers we arrive at will impact the UW system for a generation to come. We need to approach this process in an open-minded and questioning manner. We can neither adhere stubbornly to the status quo, just because that's what we're most familiar with, nor immediately embrace significant revisions of past practices or structures based only on conclusory allegations as, for example, bureaucratic obstruction. Indeed, after fact-based reflection, it may turn out that a combination of the status quo and thoughtful change regarding governance and/or other issues is both necessary and beneficial. One thing is certain, however, what we have today in the UW system is by any fair measure worthy of great pride. Our flagship, UW-Madison, is widely considered a leader among the nation's and the world's undergraduate and research institutions. At the same time, our other individual universities and colleges and the UW system, taken as a whole, are increasingly the envy of many other states. We are rightfully proud of what all those who have come before us have accomplished and must build on that foundation through even greater accomplishments in the future. What we have has worked well, and we need to preserve the best of it. Going forward, we must promptly focus substantial energy on how best, from the perspective of all the citizens of Wisconsin, to deliver higher education services. Clearly, that includes the governance of both the system and its constituent institutions, one of the major issues to be addressed by the legislative task force about which Mike Morgan told us yesterday. As we heard from Mike yesterday, the biennial budget bill calls for the formation of a special task force that will examine 6 discrete topics, including the structure of the UW system, tuition flexibility, and transfers. The UW system will staff that committee, working with the Legislative Fiscal Bureau and the Department of Administration. In addition to providing that staff support, we need respectfully to make known to the governor and the legislature that it is appropriate that this board play a meaningful and substantive part in ongoing discussions that will shape higher education relationships in Wisconsin. President Riley is already identifying chancellors and UW system staff to dig in on each of these 6 topics so that we can contribute meaningfully to the task force recommendations. I believe it important that individual regents be part of that process as well, serving with our chancellors and staff members to develop, refine, and shape our best ideas on each issue area. The budget bill calls for 4 members of the legislative task force to be current or former members of this board or former UW chancellors. We will work with the appointing authorities to express our desire for involvement, with the hope that some of our current regents may be considered for membership. As we look ahead to that task force's work and the input we will provide, it is timely to explain the major changes we're already contemplating, including the delegation of authority to our constituent institutions and how we are reshaping UW system administration. President Riley will speak about our work in those areas during his report, but let me also share some early thoughts about how we might consider changes to this board now under our current structure. President Riley has suggested that Regents look at our committee structure and how it aligns with the unique roles of the diverse institutions within the UW system. I don't have a formal proposal to share with you at this time, but I would like your reaction to an idea that would involve 3 new board committees, probably standing committees, each intended to recognize the unique features of several sectors within the UW system. 1, the uniqueness of the 2 doctoral institutions, 2, the 11 comprehensive institutions, and 3, the UW colleges and UW extension. The purpose of these possible new committees would be to focus attention on the issues unique to each sector. For example, the Doctoral Institutions Committee might consider issues such as graduate student remissions, Division I sports, or certain types of advanced research, issues that are unique to those institutions, their missions, and their faculties. Among the comprehensives, the question of how to build a master's program array, for instance, might be a special topic. Another example, both UW colleges and UW extension have unique relationships with county governments and county boards around the state. And those specific concerns might be best addressed by a colleges and extensions committee. You get the idea. If the board determines new standing committees should be added, this would require changes to our existing bylaws. In making those changes, we would need to consider carefully how the duties of these 3 new committees would intersect with or overlap with the duties of the existing standing committees. Would the responsibilities of the existing committees be changed? Would a new academic program at UW-Milwaukee be considered by the Education Committee, by the Doctoral Institutions Committee, or by both? Other questions, such as staffing, committee composition, and frequency of meetings, also would need to be addressed. But I'm convinced that it's an idea worthy of our careful consideration in light of changing circumstances. After our discussion today, I will ask Secretary Radu to coordinate the development of greater specificity in these possible areas. I expect that she'll work closely with President Riley and also consult with the regents, the chancellors, cabinet members, and others who would likely be affected by the changes. So, I'll stop before Kevin continues to see if there are any comments on what I've said, just as a general idea. Any thoughts anybody has? Bearing in mind that you haven't had a lot of time to think about it, but in case you have thought about it, even briefly, it would be helpful to know what you're thinking. Judy.
I'm very stimulated by this. We obviously haven't heard it before and need to think about it, but I'm very heartened by the thinking that's going on. That seems very appropriate to me.
Worthy of further thought.
Indeed.
Good. Jeff.
I think it's a good idea, and initially I haven't thought about the overlap issue, which is, I think, a difficult one. But one of the comments that I've heard from chancellors and college deans is that they would like to have a more direct route to regent decision-making on some of their general issues, not specifically capital planning, not specifically degree programs, but more generally to participate in and have input to regent decision-making. And so I think if that's what these committees will foster, I think they're certainly worth pursuing.
Good. Anybody else? Betty?
I like the idea. I think that being mindful of the communication channel, the fact that the board, some of the board members may in fact not be a part of these subcommittees, but in fact would want to know what is happening. And that kind of communication needs to be very clear. And the focus of the governance of those particular subcommittees and what it is that they do needs to be very clear as well. I think it would be an opportunity to focus on some specific issues for those subgroups. I also think that the communication with the greater board is essential.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes.
Jose?
I'm also intrigued by the idea. I would like, though, to put a caution, and that is I'm mindful of how committee work is work. And it takes time and effort to prepare also for that work, both from the perspective of the administration that has to prepare and staff those committees, as well as for those of us that have to then sit on those committees. So I would encourage us not to just simply, and I know that with respect to you're not thinking that way, but that we just not simply look at adding more and more committees, because it just adds a significant burden to staff as well as to those of us that are going to have to sit on those. But I think it's a very intriguing idea. It's definitely worth pursuing. But that would be the only caution that I would put. We have to be mindful, especially in light of continued reductions and realignments of staff and personnel, and the resources that we have to staff those committees.
Okay. Well, all right. Thank you. Kevin?
Thanks, Mike, and thank you all. Welcome. Good to see you this morning. And wanted to pick up on the important conversation that Regent Spector just got started here under the banner of what I'll call change management. So I wanted to update you on our work to reshape the UW system administration. In the short term, I think you're all aware that we must manage a required 25% cut in UW system administration's GPR funding, which amounts to about $2.4 million per year. In achieving that reduction, we're also required to eliminate at least 51 full-time equivalent positions. Thanks, Greg. In the system administration, staff positions. As we just discussed, we must also be prepared to provide our best ideas to the special task force that will be appointed by the governor and the legislature to examine 6 specific issues about the university. The long term, we must engage in a broader discussion about the role of UW System's central office, how we support our statewide governing board, and how we serve the individual UW universities, colleges, and extension. Back in April, I mentioned that I'd be appointing an advisory committee on the roles of UW System administration. That committee, chaired by Regent Pruitt and facilitated by former UW Superior Chancellor Terry Taggart, is making good progress. With input from a broad range of stakeholders, the committee is on track to submit its recommendations to me in August, looking at what we do and why it matters from the dual perspectives of our governing body and our member universities. Along with Regent Pruitt, the advisory committee also includes Regent Bartell, Regent Crane, Regent Vice President Brent Smith, and Regent Emeritus Jay Smith. And the Smith brothers bring their cough drops to each meeting. Why it's such a fun group to be working with. The committee's report will provide a valuable foundation for the decisions we make about how to manage the 25% cut and the corresponding position reductions. So I wanted to give Regent Pruitt a moment to give us a brief update from his chair's seat on the committee's progress, and any of the other regents who are involved on that committee might want to join in. Chuck?
Well, thank you, Kevin, and let me encourage my colleagues who have been with us every step of the way to add. A couple just very brief thoughts. The committee is a wonderful group. The advisory committee, the president did an extraordinary job of bringing together chancellors, CBOs, provosts, staff, students. A range of the constituencies that make up the UW system are all represented, and I think are doing a great job at what is a very complicated process, as I think we can all appreciate, with a lot of interests and a lot of interest in terms of the outcome of this group. And the committee has met 3 times. We will meet again on the 3rd of August. In between now and then, and I think this is very important for my colleagues on the board, I think it's going to be very important for us to hear from you. And we have divided kind of the group accordingly, and one of the Regent members will be reaching out to you in the days ahead, if they haven't already, to just get some thoughts and perspectives that you have. Because this is, I think we all realize, a balancing act between, on the one hand, the introduction of new flexibilities and our desire and our commitment through the Wisconsin IDEA Partnership to push down those flexibilities to the campuses, as we talked about a lot over the last several months, and give chancellors and the leadership on the campuses an opportunity to be more entrepreneurial and use these new responsibilities in the most effective way possible to shape their universities. But at the same time, we obviously are also balancing the kind of the leadership and accountability responsibilities that come with being a state land-grant university. And I think our president probably just a few moments ago articulated a big part of the challenge of this committee and a challenge of this board going forward, which is to take a new look at the UW system, asking sort of what do we do, how do we do it, and why do we do it. Those are your 3 questions, President Spector, and I think they are important ones that certainly will hopefully this committee is struggling with and would welcome the advice, counsel, and thoughts of the regents as we try to put this report together at a very short time frame, and recognizing that this is just going to be the first of what are many steps to come as the system president puts together his report to the state, and we all go through this new day that we have arrived at in Wisconsin. Brad, Judy, Jeff, other thoughts you'd like to share? Or?
Well, I think, following up on what Chuck said, for many years, and especially the last 6 months, we've been telling the legislature, we've been telling the public, and most importantly, perhaps telling our campuses that we want to reevaluate and perhaps even change somewhat the relationship between system and campus, our campuses. And this seems to me, this commission and the report that it's going to give is one of the first steps to see if we are really, which I think we are, serious about what we've been representing over the last 6 months. So I think it's going to be very closely watched what this commission comes up with, what ideas we come up with for accomplishing this new relationship that we've been urging for many years, and again, especially the last 6 months. So I look forward. I agree with Chuck. We're making a lot of progress, especially I think the last meeting was, I think, certainly going in the right direction, and we'll have something to the president by the end of August.
Jeff, if not, any thoughts? If not, back to you.
Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks for that update. We intend to include a copy of the advisory committee's report when we submit our budget reduction plan to the Joint Committee on Finance and DOA by September 1st, as required by law. That is, you may recall that originally this report on how we would take the 25% cut in system administration and how we would eliminate the 51 positions was to be delivered to the JFC and DOA by October 1st. It got backed up, and that's the short time frame that a number of us have been struggling with. But we plan, we will meet that deadline. We think it's important for legislators and state leaders to see that we did indeed take a very thoughtful approach to these significant changes driven by priorities of people outside this building, Van Hise Hall. So we'll work closely with President Spector, Vice President Smith, the chair of the committee, Regent Pruitt, on the advisory committee's report prior to sharing it, and the budget reduction plan on September 1. When we submit those materials to the Department of Administration and the Joint Finance Committee, we will indicate that the overall report is still subject to review and approval by this full board at its September 8th meeting. So that's the glide path for getting this work done. The recommendations of the committee are advisory to me, and when we get the report, we'll be talking them over with region leadership, and I'll communicate with all of you about my reaction to them and be collecting your thoughts as we lead up to the September 1st deadline and then the discussion at the September 8th board meeting. All right. Yes, Regent Davis.
Between whenever the commission gives you, and you get input and all that, you're going to send the report that you're going to send to the legislature by the deadline to the board, the full board, so that they know what was sent,
Yeah.
even though it's subject to approval
Oh, yes.
by the 8th. Okay, I just want to make sure that. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Good. Well, let me share some news from around the UW system then. First up, some record-setting numbers. The OPAR office, UW Systems Office of Policy Analysis and Research, has just released a report on trends in enrollment. You probably heard that UW System institutions once again enrolled a record number of students in the fall 2010 semester, topping 182,000 for a 2% increase over fall 2009. You might be interested to learn that Wisconsin resident students comprise 82% of all undergraduate students. In another report, OPAR finds that UW universities also conferred a record number of degrees in 2009-10, handing out 33,442 degrees at all levels. And that's an 8% increase over the past 5 years and a 24% increase since 1999-2000. Almost 3/4 of degrees conferred were baccalaureate degrees, with the top 3 disciplines being business at 18.5%, social sciences at 8%, and education at 7.5%. At the graduate level, education was the top discipline at 19%, followed by business at 16%, and health professions at 15%. Also of note, underrepresented minority students earned a record number and proportion of degrees conferred by the UW system institutions. In 2009-10, underrepresented minority students earned 2,122 degrees, or 6.3% of all degrees conferred. That's a 27% increase since 2005-2006. All very good news. So congratulations to our chancellors and their colleagues at the campuses, especially faculty and instructional academic staff all around the system for making this happen, particularly with tight resources. So our thanks too to Associate Vice President Heather Kim and her team for pulling together these reports. At our UW La Crosse archaeology class has discovered the remains of a Native American home near Holman in La Crosse County that could be more than 500 years old. In the course of their 5-week field study, the students unearthed a section of a village longhouse that is believed to have been used by members of the Oneota, a late prehistoric farming culture. So far, more than 7,000 artifacts have been documented, including remnants of the home and broken pieces of pottery. Remnants at the site have yet to be fully examined, but they should help show what life was like in the area before any form of European influence appeared on the scene, according to archaeology professor David Henderson. Discovery of the house followed a week and a half of digging more than 300 1.25-foot deep holes around a 19-acre expanse. Now, Regent Smith, were you asked to dig any of those holes?
I was there, yeah.
You were, yeah. This is exciting work, and hats off to Chancellor Gao and the UWL community. UW Madison and UW Milwaukee are participating with Johnson Controls, Inc., the world's leading automotive battery supplier, to position Wisconsin as a worldwide leader in energy storage. As you may have seen in recent news reports, Johnson Controls is endowing a professorship, research labs, and graduate studies in energy storage at our 2 research-intensive universities. Close collaboration between campuses and partnerships with Wisconsin industries are nothing new, but the impact and importance of these synergistic efforts have never been more essential. Today's economy demands innovative public-private cooperation. This gift from Johnson Controls is the latest in a series of smart investments by that growing Wisconsin company that recognizes the value of higher education partnerships. So congratulations to UW-Milwaukee and UW-Madison for breaking new ground with the partnership. Chancellor Mike Lovell has been working to make this happen since he arrived in Milwaukee as the Dean of Engineering, and he and the good partners at Johnson Controls and Madison have pulled off a real coup here. When Mike and some of the others were telling me about this, it became apparent that this kind of a partnership with the two major research universities in a system and a corporation working on really important research. I mean, the first folks that find out how to store energy on a large scale are going to have an industry that will ride them through the 21st century. And if we can have that industry here in Wisconsin, it would be a great, great boon for the people of Wisconsin. So thanks, Mike, for all the work you've done on that, and thanks to your partners as well. Scientific models used to predict future climate change could be modified because of the findings from an extensive research project that involves Dr. Tally Lee, a UW-Eau Claire biologist, and several of her students. Dr. Lee and researchers from the University of Minnesota conducted an 11-year experiment with 13 plant species common in Midwestern prairie ecosystems. In a nutshell, what they found is that the capacity for these plants to absorb extra carbon from the atmosphere as carbon dioxide levels rise is less than expected. The results are significant, Dr. Lee says, because it means existing climate change models may actually underestimate the pace of future carbon dioxide increases and the associated global climate change. In other words, global warming could happen even faster than we thought. Much more study is necessary, of course, but this is yet another example of the cutting-edge research done on our campuses. So congratulations to Chancellor Levin Stankiewicz and his colleagues at UW-Eau Claire. Congratulations, Pat. The Education Building on Bascom Hill at UW-Madison recently became the first building in the UW system to receive a platinum ranking, which is the highest ranking available for leadership in energy and environmental design. That's the LEED certification that I'm sure you've heard of. One of the project team's central goals in renovating the 111-year-old building on Bascom Hill was to provide at least another 100 years of service at a time when many 40-year-old buildings are being replaced. The project incorporates an array of green technology. For instance, the building is the first in the Midwest to use an active chilled beam system for cooling and ventilation. Developed in Norway, chilled beam systems have been used for about 20 years in Europe. Other features that earn the building its platinum certification include energy-saving strategies and systems that achieve a 45% reduction in energy use. The project reused 77% of the existing building's core and shell and used sustainable materials throughout, of which 30% were manufactured within 500 miles of the site. The Education Building is also the first state-owned building in Wisconsin to receive an ENERGY STAR rating. Like a new dishwasher or refrigerator, a new building can also be rated on its energy-conserving qualities. So if you haven't been to the new Education Building on Bascom Hill, I'd urge you all to stop by. It's, besides being wonderful in terms of its energy efficiency, it's just a beautiful, beautiful building as it's been redone. UW-Whitewater's business outreach centers are winning recognition for their successful efforts to help companies keep themselves strong and growing despite a tough economy. The campus's Small Business Development Center and Wisconsin Innovation Service Center recently received 2 grants totaling $350,000 from the U.S. Small Business Administration to continue and expand their work with regional businesses. The Small Business Development Center also was honored last month with a Service Excellence Award from the U.S. Small Business Administration. Ronald Bud Gayhart, director of the Center for Business Innovation and Development at Whitewater, says the university is in a unique position to help entrepreneurs, startup companies, and small businesses. He said, quote, "We know that we have a lot of tools in our toolkit that we can leverage for business in our region and across the state of Wisconsin. What's more, about 20 UW-Whitewater students work for the business outreach centers, providing a hands-on learning opportunity that they could not get out of a textbook." So congratulations to Chancellor Telfer and the UW-Whitewater campus on that. Last April, this board approved the sale of 1.6 acres of land to the UW-Platteville Real Estate Foundation to facilitate the construction of a new residence hall. UW-Platteville is pleased to report that they've just broken ground for that project, a 6-story hall that will house more than 600 students. The 153,000 square foot building is scheduled to open its doors in August of 2012, and not a moment too soon. Chancellor Dennis Shields notes that UW-Platteville's incoming freshman class is the largest in the institution's 145-year history. He said, quote, "By partnering with the Real Estate Foundation and City of Platteville officials, we are ensuring that our freshmen and sophomore students are provided with the safe and structured housing that's so vital to their success." The new facility will bring UW-Platteville's residential hall population to nearly 3,300. We talked a lot about the economic impact of our universities on their communities. A recent report by the economic research and consulting firm North Star Economics paints a picture of one of our campuses that really tells that story. The new report notes that UW-Stout contributes $347 million each year to Wisconsin's economy and returns $9.59 for each $1 that the state taxpayers invest in the institution. The report also found that nearly 7,100 jobs in the area are attributable to UW-Stout. At the same time, the report also showed that the percentage of the total UW-Stout operating budget supported by state tax dollars has declined from about 37% in 2004 to 19% in 2010-11. Ken Jost, the president of the board of directors of Momentum West, the regional economic development entity, a 10-county entity, sums it up like this: UW-Stout provides a super return on our investment of tax dollars. So congratulations to Chancellor Sorensen and to Provost Julie Firstbow. UW-Marathon County is proud to share the news that one of its alumni, John Greendeer of Stevens Point, was recently elected as president of the Ho-Chunk Nation. John, age 38, attended UW-Marathon County in 1999 to 2001. He was very active on campus, particularly with diversity issues. He took the oath of office earlier this month and will serve a 4-year term. Mr. Greendeer said his administration's initial focus will be Ho-Chunk Nation member employment, opportunity, and education. So our congratulations to President Greendeer and Campus Dean Keith Montgomery and Chancellor Ray Cross and the UW-Marathon County community. That concludes my remarks, Mr. President, with the exception of a short summer poem, which is one by Robert Louis Stevenson called Bed in Summer. In winter I get up at night and dress by yellow candlelight. In summer, quite the other way. I have to go to bed by day. I have to go to bed and see the birds still hopping on the tree, or hear the grown-up people's feet still going past me in the street. And does it not seem hard to you when all the sky is clear and blue, and I should like so much to play, to have to go to bed by day? So I hope you all stay up late and enjoy the long summer days. Back to you, Regents Spector.
A good Scotsman. Well, now we come to one of the fun things of what we do, and I will turn it over to Regent Drew, who is the chair of the Academic Staff Excellence Awards Committee.
Well, it's with great pleasure that we welcome here today the winners of this year's Academic Staff Regents Awards for Excellence. This is the highest recognition to be bestowed on members of the UW System's academic staff. With this award, we, the Board of Regents, salute the hard work, dedication, and innovative thinking of all of our talented academic staff members. Tough as it was to narrow the field, we are presenting awards this morning to 2 individuals and 1 program. The board is very pleased to recognize and honor these winners, whose outstanding work helps to strengthen and invigorate not only our UW institutions, but the communities in which they serve. It was my privilege to chair the selection committee that had the very interesting and very challenging job of deciding these winners. I'd like to thank my fellow regents on the committee, Regents Stan Davis, Brent Smith, Jose Vasquez, and Betty Womack for all their work in making these selections. I think I can speak for all of us in saying that we are truly impressed by the talent, commitment, and achievements of all the nominees. I'll just remind everyone that you can find out much more about each of our winners in your information packets. I think you'll be impressed. So let's get started. I'll ask Regent Vice President Brent Smith to introduce our first award winner.
It's my privilege to present the first individual academic staff Regents Award for Excellence to someone whom a colleague described as, quote, one of the most ardent advocates for students that I know, and that is Dr. Joseph Ebold of UW-Oshkosh. Dr. Ebold has been the Director of Counseling Center at UW-Oshkosh since 1999. In that time, he has played a significant and transformative role in campus-wide student success and retention activities. He has also assumed leadership of some of the more challenging issues on campus, including alcohol use, tobacco use, violence prevention, victimization, and diversity awareness. Colleagues say he has worked tirelessly on retention efforts, bringing assessments to campus to identify high-risk students. He has also headed up an initiative to increase diversity awareness of the staff and campus-wide. He has streamlined procedures to respond to crises on campus, and he has encouraged outreach efforts to reach students both on and off campus who may need some of the expertise offered by the mental health professionals at the Counseling Center. Dr. Ebold says his philosophy is founded on balancing two needs, taking a long-term approach to creating systems that create and reinforce student success, while at the same time maintaining focus on the immediate needs of individuals. We strive to listen well and respond with sensitivity and professionalism, he says. Last year, the Counseling Center at UW-Oshkosh provided 289 outreach and training programs for more than 9,200 people on campus. It also provided over 4,100 therapy hours, and that's a 46% increase over 1999 when Dr. Ebold first came to the center. The impact of Dr. Ebold's commitment stretches far beyond UW-Oshkosh. Over the past 2 years, as many in this room know, he chaired a UW system-wide mental health task force that was responsible for modifying the region's mental health policies to better meet the needs of all of our students. Petra Roeder, sitting here in front, UW-Oshkosh's Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, describes Dr. Ebold like this, quote, his energy and creativity seem boundless, and this enables him to be the consummate problem solver. Please join me in congratulating our first winner of the Academic Staff Region Award for Excellence, Dr. Joseph Ebold.
Thank you, Regent Smith. I'd like to thank Regent John Drew and all of the members of the Academic Staff Excellence Committee for this humbling and frankly surprising honor. I want to thank Vice Chancellor Petra Roeder, Provost Lane Ernst, and Chancellor Richard Wells for their ongoing support of the UW-Oshkosh Counseling Center and many other campus programs that support our students, staff, and faculty, and for their commitment to the concept that student well-being and student success are intimately connected. I also want to lift up the excellent work of the Counseling Center staff. Their excellence, professionalism, and hard work, along with the collaboration of many colleagues across campus and across the UW system, is essential to any success I can claim. The letter I received informing me about this award said I could have a few minutes to make remarks about the factors that have been critical to my development as an outstanding academic staff member. Given the pressing business of this meeting, I felt my remarks needed to add value, so I'm going to tell a story that I've never really told before in public. So Petra's wondering, what is he going to say now? Well, here's my story. I was born on a country road in rural Wisconsin, more or less in the middle of a cornfield. When people used to ask me what my culture was, I'd say, agriculture. I'm a first-generation college student. In fact, neither of my parents graduated from high school. I'm the youngest of 9 children, and none of my siblings pursued higher education. So you can imagine what my parents thought when I said I planned to go to college. My mother's response was, "We always thought you'd get a job in the factory." Not that there's anything wrong with that, and not that she didn't want to be supportive. I think it was just incomprehensible to her. It was like I told her I was going to go and live on the moon. Prior to scheduling classes at UW Oshkosh, I had never stepped foot on a college campus. With this background, you may have some idea of what it was like for me to arrive at school. I had no friends, no money, no idea of what to do or where to go first. I felt like an alien, like I had landed on the moon. But despite my lack of preparation, I became immersed in a culture where I felt understood and encouraged to reach higher. I was engaged with my faculty, my classes, in student organizations, and in student activities. People all over campus were willing to help me navigate the maze of higher education. My first year residence hall encouraged me to become a community advisor, which led to 3 challenging years as a CA. I can remember the frustrated smile of my academic advisor as she helped me put together a schedule after most classes were full, because I was one of those students who didn't do a good job of paying attention to deadlines. I used the services of the counseling center as I struggled with my emerging identity. I engaged in research with faculty and found myself as a student. I graduated with honors and gained acceptance to a competitive doctoral program in clinical psychology. Earning my PhD and working as a psychologist at Ball State University solidified my academic understanding of student development and the mechanisms of academic success. I learned how engagement is the antidote to apathy and how academic staff, both in and outside of the classroom, play a pivotal role in that engagement. I now understand that my path through college was not an aimless wandering that found a serendipitous destination, but it was directed by caring guides who shaped and nurtured my aspirations. Some people who come from circumstances like mine believe that they pulled themselves up by their own bootstraps. I do not. I'm a product of the UW system, of the simple idea that with a little help, people like me can go on to help others. That, more than anything else, motivates me to give back and to strive for excellence on my campus and for the system. I'm not that special or unique. I know that many of you have similar stories and similar motivations. So I want to finish by saying thanks to all of you. Thank you for everything you're doing in these challenging times, for folks throughout our state, people young and old, urban and rural, rich and poor. These people depend on all of us to hold the ladder of success and to demonstrate excellence in serving them every day. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. It is my privilege to present our second individual academic staff award for excellence to Alfonso Gutierrez of UW-Madison. Mr. Gutierrez is director of the UW Radio Frequency Identification Lab, as well as director of research and education for the UW E-Business Consortium. This award recognizes his outstanding contributions to the College of Engineering, the UW E-Business Consortium, and the Department of Industrial and Systems Engineering. Over the past 9 years, his leadership and critical research support for several innovative multidisciplinary university-industry partnerships has placed the College of Engineering and the campus in the international spotlight and garnered recognition for UW-Madison as the preeminent center for thought leadership in radio frequency identification, or RFID industries. And I have to pause for a minute. When I read thought leadership in radio frequency identification, the thought of a sci-fi movie kind of entered my mind. Just gave me a pause, but with Alfonso, I'm sure we're still in good hands. In recommending Mr. Gutierrez for his award, Raj Viramani, the Executive Director of the UW Business Consortium and E-Business Institute, wrote the following quote: "His efforts have a substantial impact on research, knowledge transfer, and outreach to industry and advance the Wisconsin idea. Furthermore, his personal mentoring and tutelage of dozens of students has had a profound positive influence on their lives by enhancing their career readiness and instilling in them a greater level of self-confidence and passion for lifelong learning." End quotes. In his role as Director for Research and Education of the UW Business Consortium, which includes about 70 leading Wisconsin companies, Mr. Gutierrez helps to develop and implement a variety of offerings such as industry peer groups that enable collaborative learning among the consortium members and the sharing of best practices. In this way, members have been able to stay on top of emerging technologies and business practices and also tap into the collective experience and wisdom of the group. That, in turn, helps them to make informed decisions and gain competitive advantages. 6 years ago, Mr. Gutierrez helped establish the UW RFID Lab, a state-of-the-art facility for research development and technology transfer of radio frequency identification and related technologies. The lab's research projects have typically been motivated by significant needs and applications in a variety of industries, such as healthcare, transportation, or manufacturing, again reflecting his strong commitment to the Wisconsin idea. The head of one company that has worked closely with Mr. Gutierrez said of him, "Alfonso continually brings forward innovative ideas and has a knack for finding creative solutions to industry problems." Over the years, Mr. Gutierrez has received numerous awards honoring his contributions, including a Certificate of Commendation from Governor Jim Doyle in 2006 for his contributions in expanding innovation in Wisconsin and growing the state's economy. He was also recently elected as an active member of the prestigious AIDC 100, an international organization of automatic identification and data capture professionals who have significantly contributed to the advancement of the industry. Membership is limited to 100 worldwide. Very, very prestigious group. We are delighted today to add our voice to the chorus in recognizing his many accomplishments. Please join me in welcoming our second Academic Staff Excellence Award winner, Mr. Alfonso Gutierrez. Please. A couple of quick things. Patty, his wife, is here, and I promise I will not tell some of those Alfonso-isms, as I heard that you and the children know about him. As well, I also have to tell you that as an Hispanic, this man cuts a dashing look when he wears that wonderful guayabera. Alfonso, the podium is yours.
Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto. Thanks to life that has given so much. This is a fragment of a poem from Violeta Parra, one of my favorite Chilean poets. This poem became very popular as a song all across Latin America during the 70s. And as we built our family, we adopted this fragment as our gratitude prayer before the meals, where we recount our blessings. Then I was 16, an idealist, a dreamer. I did not like the system, and I was determined to change the system. I thought that the system needed re-engineering, so I chose engineering as my background. Today, I'm still a dreamer. I still want to change the system. Then I wanted a radical revolution. Today, I'm a bit tamed, and I'm bought into revolutions through continuous improvement, a bit at a time. When asked what drove me to where I am today, and Regent Judy Crane last night asked me that question, and I kind of gave her the geographical ways through different countries that brought me here. My response is that there were three major forces, each one may be of equal weight. The first one is what I could do by myself. The second is what other people helped me accomplish. And the last one is pure luck. Let me recount briefly the last two. Sí, gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto. Thanks to life that has given me so much. It has given me passion and love. My wonderful spouse, Patty, and my children, Alex, Martina, and Camila. Miss Luceros, my own shooting stars. My ultimate reason, yes, my family, my extended family is the foundation of who I am and my lifeline support. I'm extremely grateful to life for them. In my professional life, I have been also very fortunate. Yes, indeed. Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto. It gave me many mentors. They have been a constant lighthouse in my journey. From Doña Paca, my kindergarten teacher in my home country in Colombia, who played violin. I'm sure she was not the best performer, but for the first time I saw pure passion. I'm a lucky man, and I had mentors all the way. Teachers, uncles, neighbors, bosses. They just show up when I need them. I want to recognize one of them, Dr. Raj Viramani, here in UW-Madison, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us today. He brought me into academia 10 years ago. He has given me direction, encouragement, a shared vision, and friendship. I could not ask for more. And for that, I'm very grateful. Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto. He gave me sponsors. Sponsors are those special people who not only believe in your ideas, but provide you with the resources you need, who can write the check, so to speak. I have them there. They have been for me too. Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto. He gave me a team, Kyle, Beth, Sandra, Roger, Kevinda, Caroline, Lisa, Denise, and many more, who make my life and my daily work in life enjoyable and easier. And of course, my students, a marvelous mix of cultures, intelligences, personalities, creativity in action. And finally, pure luck. There are two kinds of luck. For one, good luck. I have been in the right place at the right time with the right people. Many great opportunities. But paradoxically, the other kind of luck, the bad luck, has brought me the most, mainly from my own mistakes, the main source of my learning and growth. But I have only learned from my mistakes when I had the courage and strength to see them as they were. Yes, it requires a lot of strength to accept your own mistakes. And strength is not random. It is a gift from God. It is a gift from life. And that is what I pray for today and every day. Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto. Life bless you all.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. Good morning, all. Is it soda pop? Do you call the sandwich you eat a sub? Or maybe a hero? Or a hoagie? Or a grinder? When you refer to a remote place, would that be the boonies? The sticks? The pucker brush, or the willy wags? Are these not the strangest words you've ever heard? As sticks, boonies for me. As these few examples are only a hint, the language that we speak here in the United States of America is wonderfully rich and colorful. And the place to find out more about this rich language is the Dictionary of American Regional English, DARE as it is called. DARE is a multiple volume reference tool that records thousands of words and phrases and pronunciations that vary from one part of the country to another. Kind of reminds me of when I go from Houston to Fort Worth, Texas. I actually think I'm in a foreign country, and that's in Texas. For more than 50 years, the Department of English at UW-Madison has worked on what the New York Times calls or describes as one of the glories of contemporary American scholarship. And today, the Board of Regents is recognizing the dictionary's editorial staff, DARE's academic staff members, and those who have been so closely involved in this incredible project. When Professor Frederick Cassidy first envisioned DARE over 50 years ago, he anticipated that the data collected would take 5 years and the editorial process another 5. That was 49 years ago. That was a short-sighted, a misjudgment. However, in 1889, the American Dialect Society actually promoted the idea of this dictionary or this compilation of words and phrases, but Dr. Cassidy is actually the one that started that and actually completed that. Died at the age of 92, having been recognized by the governor of this state as well. The project that he expected to complete by himself with the assistance of 2 editors has instead required an editorial staff ranging from 2 to 10 academic staff members and a span of 5 decades. DARE staff members, scientists, researchers, special librarian categories, have done the background research and written the text for over 50,000 entries in 4 volumes. And July of this year, volume 5 is going to press, and we will see that volume in spring of 2012. What is different about DARE is that it shows how and where people use languages or use words, not only the language of our everyday lives, but expressions of our grandparents. By the way, I thought about this, and I looked it up. What do you call your grandparents? And that in and of itself is regional. I call my grandmom Big Mama. Does anyone have a Big Mama here? Must be in the South. Maybe you have a Nana or an Oma or Mima. All of those words are regional. This is fascinating. I'm pumped. This was just fascinating reading about this. While the dictionary was originally intended as a record of American English dialect for use by linguists, librarians, teachers, writers, historians, journalists, over the years it has become recognized as a valuable reference tool for doctors, lawyers, police officers, natural scientists, oral historians, actors, and others. In 1990s, for example, a child abductor left a note demanding that a ransom be deposited in a trash can on a devil strip at the intersection. A forensic linguist used the dictionary, our DARE, to help solve the crime, because the term devil strip actually means a medium, and it is regional to the state of Ohio. And in some states it's called tax strip, and others it's called the neutral ground. In addition to doing the research for and writing the dictionary's entries, the academic staff members of DARE have also provided training and guidance for dozens of students, both graduate and undergraduate, over the decades. Susan Cook, Associate Dean for the Arts and Humanities at UW-Madison, has this to say about the project. DARE ranks among the ongoing research initiatives of which the graduate school is especially proud for how beautifully it embodies our combined mission of education and research. It is the gold standard for dictionaries of its kind and the model by which any similar projects are judged. And this is not only here in this state or this nation, this is worldwide. This is truly a treasure for our country. It is my pleasure to present the Academic Staff Award for Excellence for a program to the Dictionary of Academic Regional English Project team led by Joan Houston Hall. Joan has headed DARE for the past 10 years. Congratulations. This is truly, truly a treasure.
You got to come forward.
Okay.
Yep. So squish it together. There you go. Okay.
Well, thank you, Regent Womack. It was a wonderful introduction. And I'm delighted to accept this award not only for our academic staff, who are our editors and bibliographer, whom you just met, but also for our classified staff, our students, and our many, many community volunteers, because without every one of them, we couldn't have reached the letter Z. It's definitely been a collaborative effort. Well, when I tell people about DARE, that we're recording the words, the phrases, the pronunciations, even little bits of grammar and syntax that vary from one part of the country to another, often the response is, "Huh, that's interesting. But who would ever use a book like that?" Well, as Regent Womack suggested, when we first started this, we anticipated that librarians and linguists and perhaps historians and teachers of American literature would be the primary users. And certainly they are. But we've been absolutely delighted to find how many other people simply love this work. And that includes thousands of everyday folks who simply love language. It's really fun just to browse through this dictionary and find the words that sound a little bit strange, and then to read the quotations that go with them and say, wow, I never knew that. But when it comes to explaining why this is useful, Regent Womack gave some of the examples, but I'd like to elaborate on them to give it a little bit of context. One example is a favorite of mine. A librarian from Tennessee wrote saying she had had a patron come into the library and want to know about dry land fish. She looked in all the fish books she could think of to no avail. Nothing. Finally, she looked in DARE and discovered that in Kentucky and Tennessee, a dry land fish is, anybody know? A mushroom. Known in Virginia as a woods fish. Some people say that it's because when they're rotten they smell a little bad. Also, think about physicians in this country. If they grow up in one part of the country, go to college in the same place, go to medical school in the same area, and then for their first job are positioned somewhere totally different, they can be at a loss when the first patient comes in and says something like, Doc, I've got the ground itch. I've got dew poison, sore kernels, leaders, pones, dip jennies. If they have DARE, they can look up these regional and folk terms for ailments and find out what to ask next. In fact, we got a letter from a physician who grew up in Maine saying that his first position was in Pennsylvania. And one of his first patients came in and said, Doc, I've been rifting and I got jags in my leaders. That man needed DARE. Similarly, I had an email recently from a lawyer in Atlanta who said he had been in a negotiating session or mediation session with a mediator who was from Kentucky. And in the course of the discussion, he said, well, I think we're heading for a dog fall. My Atlanta friend said, excused himself and Googled dog fall and came to DARE's entry that shows that a dog fall or a dog fall settlement is a tie, a draw, and it's particularly found in Kentucky and Arkansas, and this mediator was from Louisville. Oral historians find DARE of immense use. They can be reading memoirs from people who lived 100 years ago, 150 years ago, or old diaries, and come across regional or folk terms that they've never seen before. DARE is the perfect place to look those up. Playwrights and novelists consult DARE because they want to be sure that the words they put in their characters' mouths are appropriate for the time and the place of the setting of their novel or their play. And as Regent Womack recounted, one of our favorite examples of the utility of DARE was this case in which a forensic linguist solved the problem by recognizing that the term devil strip is used in the area outlined by Youngstown, Cleveland, and Akron, Ohio. And one of the suspects on the police list happened to be from Akron, and when he was confronted with the linguistic as well as the other evidence, he confessed. One of the other questions I often get is, well, with all the media attention that is around us these days and with the fact that people travel so much, isn't American English becoming homogenized? Well, I'm happy to say no. One of the constants about language is that it always changes. So yes, language is changing, but is it becoming homogenized? No. Sometimes a nationwide word will spread widely and some local terms will get wiped out because of a commercial enterprise that's very successful. Think for a minute about the troughs that run along the edge of your roof that catch the rain and take it over to the downspout. You probably call them gutters, maybe eaves or eaves troughs. Well, when we did the research for this, in New Jersey, the dominant term was leaders. They lead the water to the downspout. Well, because of the commercialization of companies that talk about gutters, gutters has pretty much taken over throughout the country, and leaders is very, very hard to find these days. So that kind of thing does happen, and we lose some localisms. But at the same time, if you call the strip of grass between the sidewalk and the street the devil strip, but if I say, I'm going to put the garbage out on the terrace, and you say, no, it's on the parking strip, or the boulevard, or the berm, or the tree lawn, or the tree grass, or tree plot, that doesn't hinder our communication. It just adds a little bit of spice. The context makes it clear what we're talking about. And for most people, if we have to say, what do you mean? That just adds interest, and you say, wow, I learned something new today. So for that reason, because language is always changing, I'm delighted to say that DARE has recently contracted with Harvard University Press to produce the digital edition of DARE, which should come out in 2013. And we hope to maintain a small staff to continue updating the way our language changes. In order to do that, it will require that we continue to maintain what has been an amazing collaboration among federal agencies, parts of the UW-Madison, the Graduate School, the College of Letters and Science, WARF, and the English Department, independent foundations, corporations, businesses, and many hundreds of individuals who care so much about their language that they're willing to contribute to our success. It has been a difficult process bringing all of these parts together, but it's always incredibly gratifying to know how much people care about their language and about helping us to the end of this project. And because of that, we're extremely grateful for your recognition of our work and your granting us this award. So thank you very much.
Thank you to our committee. That's terrific. How can one hear these stories and learn of these accomplishments without having their batteries, Johnson controls or otherwise, recharged? That's terrific. John.
I'll just say something. I really want to thank Sal Carranza and the staff that kind of puts things in order and gets it to us to a point where we can make a selection, and also all the way down to Heather for her help with the remarks. Wouldn't be possible without all that. So.
Great. I would point out what Kevin said yesterday, that there are 13,000 academic staff people, so we have seen the very cream of a very good crop here. We will turn now to a distinguished speaker in his own right, Regent Falvo, who will tell us about the report of the Business, Finance, and Audit Committee.
Okay, otherwise known as Nanoots to my grandchildren. This will not be as exciting as what we just witnessed, I guarantee you. Thank you. We held a joint session with the Education Committee to discuss recently completed program review, which was the Risk and Liability in Service Learning Programs. You'll hear about this from the Education Committee, but I'll just note that it was the first presentation to the board by the new Director of Operations Review and Audit, Liz Dion. Liz comes to the UW system with considerable experience in higher education practice of KPMG. Solid financial background will serve us well as we delegate the flexibilities received in the biennial budget. We then reconvened as the Business Finance and Audit Committee. It was pointed out to me by the former chair of this committee and now vice president that we were in session the longest of any committee and that had never happened before.
Just observing.
We did discuss the delegation of unclassified personnel flexibilities. The committee approved a resolution delegating additional flexibilities relating to unclassified personnel, including authority to approve Vice Chancellor Provost's pay plan and base adjustments, authority to appoint and set the salary of UW College deans, endorsing the President's further delegation of these and other flexibilities to the UW chancellors. These other flexibilities include appoint and set the salary for new and interim Vice Chancellor Provosts, approve salary level for administrators returning to faculty positions, use of modified chancellor titles and assignment of salary ranges, approval of extraordinary salary ranges for unclassified staff, and approval and establishment of institution-specific peer institutions for market salary comparisons. Next item was the semi-annual status report on large, vital information technology projects. We heard from Associate Vice President for Learning and Information Technology, Ed Meechan, on the status of 3 large IT progress as required by Wisconsin statutes. These large, high-risk projects, defined as over $1 million, include mainframe-based legacy budget system, Phase 2 of the HRS implementation, and re-implementation of the Student Information System at UW-Platteville. We heard from the United Council on the mandatory refundable fee adjustment. The committee heard from representatives, including Nicole Wan, the Executive Director, Dylan Yambret, and Tyler Borkowski. They collectively provided some history on United Council and a recent focus of their work. They also spoke about how United Council interacts with students and the services provided. They addressed the input that students have had on the proposed increase and how the new resources would be deployed in the areas of organizational visibility, staff capacity, and student participation. Committee members acknowledged the work of the United Council along with former Regents Colleen Thomas and Aaron Wingad in focusing their efforts more effectively. The committee approved an increase of the United Council's mandatory refundable fee from $2 to $3 per academic session. We then had a report from the Director of Operations Review and Audit, Liz Leone, about the quarterly status update. She indicated that she added the reconfirmation of the 2011 audit plan as a mechanism to revisit the planned reviews in light of changing priorities. The committee discussed the opportunity for the audit office to be engaged in defining ways for the campuses to become more effective and efficient. Liz also offered potential future enhancements to the quarterly status update to provide additional information to the committee. The committee approved a request from UW-Madison Department of Chemistry to make available for expenditure 2/3 of an approximately $1.5 million bequest from the Lorabelle S. Tulloch estate. The chairman provided examples of how the funding will be used to leverage other resources in order to competitively recruit and retain faculty in this top 10 ranked chemistry department. We then approved the minutes of the June 9, 2011 meeting. We also approved a clinical trial contract between UW-Madison and Inc. Research LLC, valued at $664,524. The Senior Vice President for Administration and Fiscal Affairs, Michael Morgan, provided an update on the status of the human resource system implementation. He outlined some of the stabilization challenges across the system. Time is now being spent analyzing the nature of the WISETS tickets documenting issues, providing additional training, and meeting on individual campuses with HR payroll staff to work through problem issues. The technology is working well, but not all issues have been satisfactorily resolved. Mr. Morgan also provided some initial thoughts on the delegation of the new flexibilities of the UW institutions. So on behalf of the Business, Finance, and Audit Committee, I move the adoption of resolution, now I forget, is that supposed to be I or 1?
I think it's a 1.
You think it's a 1? Okay. 1-2A, delegation of unclassified personnel flexibilities. Resolution 1-2C, approval of United Council mandatory refundable fee increase. Resolution 12E1, approval of request for principal expenditure, Lorabelle S. Tulloch bequest, and Resolution 12F2, approval of UW-Madison contractual agreement with Inc. Research LLC.
Thank you, Mike. Is there any second to Mike's motion?
Second.
Any discussion? I'm sorry, I didn't do that right. Is there any item that anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda for further discussion? All right, if not, all those in favor of the motion as made and seconded, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you very much.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Turn now to Regent Bartel.
Thank you, President Spector. The Capital Planning and Budget Committee addressed the following 6 resolutions, which were unanimously approved and are now presented as consent agenda items. Resolution 1.3B requests approval of the design report for the UW-Eau Claire Education Building project and authority to seek a waiver from the State Building Commission to allow single prime bidding for this $44.5 million project. This is a new 4-story building that will provide space for consolidating the education departments and programs of the College of Education and Human Sciences at UWEC campus. And it will replace an obsolete space in Brewer Hall and the campus school, which has been relocated. It will also house 22 new general assignment classrooms, faculty offices, and some student services functions. And we're told that this is the first academic building built on that campus in, I think, about 40 years, so it is overdue. The use of a single prime delivery method will help reduce the amount of administration required to manage the project at a time of diminished staff resources. Resolution 1.3.C, which is brought by UW-Madison, requests authority to seek a waiver from the State Building Commission to allow the selection of a construction manager at risk for the UW-Madison Memorial Union Theater Wing renovation project, Phase 1. This is some of you may recall, a $52 million project, including $11.5 million of gift funding that will restore and renovate most of the west wing of Memorial Union, which includes the theater, and will also address many other areas throughout Memorial with mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and accessibility upgrades. Much of these would date back to when the Union was constructed back in 1929 and 1937. It's essential to have a construction manager at risk for this project. It is a very tight construction site. It will be necessary in order to keep the building operating throughout the construction period, which will be a couple of years. A construction manager at risk is able to coordinate these activities with the activities of the union. Resolution 1.3.D requests authority to adjust the project scope and budget of the program revenue funded $17 million UW-Madison Lakeshore Residence Hall Phase 2 project and construct that project. This is the second phase of a project that you've heard about before to improve food service facilities located in the West Lakeshore area of campus down here, and this one constructs a 176-bed student residence hall to satisfy the demands for on-campus housing. Phase 1, which we approved last year, will provide 412 beds. With these plans, UW-Madison now will be able to accommodate all incoming freshmen who want to choose to live on campus in UW Res Halls. This building will be the first LEED certified residence hall on the Madison campus. Interesting. In addition, the hall will house what's called Greenhouse, which is one of 7 residential learning communities on campus. Here, in this learning community, students, together with faculty, find sustainable solutions for social and environmental challenges in such areas as agri-food systems, energy conservation, building and design, and alternative energy sources. Resolution 1.3.E, which is brought by UW-Milwaukee, requests authority to seek the release of some additional building trust funds for continuing the planning of the School of Freshwater Sciences and the Kenwood Interdisciplinary Research Complex. Consultants have been retained for both of these projects. These were advance enumerated in the 2011-13 and 13-15 biennia. And these funds will continue the planning work that is underway with preliminary plans, cost estimates, design reports for these 2 projects. You will recall that the 2 projects together are budgeted at about $125 million. Resolution 1.3.F requests authority for UW River Falls to accept the gift of a house valued at $530,000, situated on 1.5 acres of land in the city of River Falls, which would function in the immediate term as the university's international house to provide accommodations for visiting scholars and guests. It could also be a retreat and workshop and have other university function space. Interestingly, under the flexibilities for UW system, which were included in the biennial budget, if the house were worth less than $150,000, we could accept it without building commission approval. Of course, if it were less than $150,000, we might not want it. It is, we're told by Chancellor Van Galen, an excellent, wonderful house, and they are very happy to have it. He also told me that the house includes a gazebo that would be great for sleepovers and ghost stories and s'mores. I don't know if the university plans to use it in that way, but it would be great. Resolution 1.3.G requests authority to construct 4 all-agency maintenance and repair projects totaling about $3 million. One of those projects will implement energy conservation measures at Sandberg Hall on the UW-Milwaukee campus. And these 6 resolutions were passed unanimously, and I now move the adoption of resolutions 1.3B, C, D, E, F, and G.
Second.
Is there any request to remove any item from the consent agenda? All right, we will proceed. All those in favor of the motion as made and seconded, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Associate Vice President David Miller, who we heard earlier, but he didn't hear, received plaudits at the ceremony for the School of Public Health in Milwaukee. Reported to us that the Building Commission approved $26 million of projects at its June meeting. He also discussed with us the need for additional flexibilities beyond those that were granted in the budget bill in the area of capital planning, with the hope that the special task force on UW restructuring and flexibilities will address at least some of those. And the committee will keep the board advised on that subject. The committee then convened in closed session to consider a naming request from UW-Madison that will be presented to this board at the end of this meeting. And, Mr. President, this concludes the report of the Capital Planning and Budget Committee.
Thank you very much. Regent Vasquez.
Thank you very much, very much. As you heard earlier, we had a joint committee meeting, and the purpose of that was to hear a report on the service learning in the UW system. As mentioned before, this was a report presented by Ms. Dion, who spent some time identifying the various roles and responsibilities of the different parties involved in service learning These included those at the institutional level, like the faculty who are at the front line of organizing service learning opportunities for their students as well as the students, and external parties like the off-site community agencies where students participate in service and learning activities. There are, of course, different risks and liabilities at stake for each of these parties and in the different settings where service learning takes place, and these were outlined for us. Overall, UW institutions that offer service learning are doing a good job attending to these risk and liability considerations. And here are some examples: conducting site visits of community partners, addressing the transportation issues encountered by their students, and communicating and setting expectations with students regarding these experiences. The report did include one recommendation, which was a focus of discussion by the Joint Committee, and that recommendation is that all those involved with service learning at the institutional level work with their own risk management staff and the UW System Office of Safety and Loss Prevention to determine the appropriate circumstances in which students are covered under statutory liability protections as agents of Wisconsin. The joint meeting then concluded, and the Education Committee then met as a committee of its own. The committee participated in an excellent interactive discussion on some of the reform efforts in teacher preparation taking place at UW Schools of Education. This was our first item of the meeting. We did have 3 panelists who presented to us. One came to us from UW Green Bay's Applied Leadership for Teaching and Learning program, which offers a master's degree to experienced educators and addresses diversity and underserved PK-12 students through partnerships involving the Green Bay campus and regional K-12 educators. This was presented to us by Tim Kaufman. UW Oshkosh's ACT program also was part of the presentation, and that was to talk about their licensure program for working professionals who already have a bachelor's degree and want a new career teaching secondary math or sciences in Wisconsin. And this was presented as a panel presentation by Mike Beathy. We also had UW Stout's Advanced STEM Education Program, comprising a number of partnerships, including several degrees, degree and teacher education options focused on technology and science education. And the panelist here was Mary Hopkins Best. These are programs that represent truly innovative approaches to preparing teachers for high-need areas in Wisconsin. And the discussion was really wide-range, informative, and it is clear that despite what one may hear or read, UW System Schools of Education are engaged in cutting-edge practices and partnerships to address the needs of really an increasingly diverse student population system-wide. Unfortunately, as happens, as I've learned in the Education Committee, there's far more that we could be talking about, but just time just doesn't permit. But we are glad to hear that there was another committee that took longer than we did. So, from that, and I would also like to comment that Rebecca Martin really did a wonderful job in really facilitating this panel discussion. We then proceeded to an item of business, which was the review, Region Policy Document Review, RPD 7-1, Board of Regents, undergraduate transfer policy. At the last month of the committee, the board endorsed revisions to the UW system policy on undergraduate transfer. We may want to recall that the system policy was the work of a committee composed of UW system and campus experts working on transfer, developed with broad input from very extensive vetting from the institutions. Yesterday, the committee was asked to approve revision to RPD 7-1, which is the Regent policy on undergraduate transfer. This 7-1 revised is by design distinct from the UW system policy. And again, we received some very good direction and information from Rebecca Martin in explaining the differences. It follows that the new format established in the last few months by board leadership in consultation with Secretary Drew and the President's Cabinet. The revision includes sections covering scope, purpose, oversight, roles and responsibilities, related policies, and relevant history. I think for the committee members, what was very helpful was that we took a very extensive policy and cut it down to about 3 pages instead of, I think it was 7 pages. Most importantly, the Regent policy makes an enduring policy statement addressing the UW system as a whole and sets out fundamental principles as a basis for action for UW institutions. It further directs all readers to the system policy containing the documents ACIS 6 and 6.2 revised, which articulate the guidelines, procedures, and administrative practice for how the Regent policy will be implemented at the UW institutions. I should comment here that this was the committee's first engagement with a substantive RPD after acting to remove some obsolete, low-hanging fruit policies overly ripe for removal from the RPDs. So we are very appreciative of the clarity and brevity, as I mentioned earlier, of the revised 7-1, and our approval was unanimous. I will move that resolution as a resolution momentarily as part of the consent agenda. Finally, we did hear then 2 additional items. One was a presentation, and these were by, again, Rebecca Martin. One was a presentation on LEAP, Inclusive Excellence at the Institutions, featuring UW Superior. And interim provost Faith Hansrud gave an overview of the impressive work underway as UW Superior engages fully with inclusive excellence. The committee was very appreciative to Provost's honest assessment that the campus' significant staff turnover was both the biggest challenge and also the biggest opportunity in fulfilling the university's commitment to implementing inclusive excellence. 37 faculty members out of a total of 127 were hired in the last 2 years. So you can imagine that this definitely has an impact. We did hear some moving farewell remarks from Senior Vice President Rebecca Martin. And I would like to note here that all of us in attendance, including some chancellors and most definitely provost and committee members, acknowledged Senior Vice President Martin's contributions to the committee, her excellent leadership and really excellent guidance. And we acknowledge that by giving her a round of applause, a standing ovation, and as an expression of our appreciation for really a wonderful job that she has provided to the Education Committee. We also thanked our former chair, Judy Crane, and also gave her a nice round of appreciation. So with that, I would like to move to the consent agenda in addition to the minutes from its June 9, 2011 meeting. The Education Committee unanimously approved one lone resolution, which I now move for approval by the full board, and that would be Resolution 11D, approving the changes to Regent Policy 7-1, the University of Wisconsin System Undergraduate Transfer Policy.
Second.
I guess I don't have to ask to remove anything on this.
If you do, then we don't have much to approve.
Is there any discussion on this motion, Jeff?
Just a question. Was there any dissent on this? Not among the committee. You said it was unanimous vote, but did any of the chancellors or any provosts or anybody at the campus level have concerns about the changes in this transfer policy?
Not that it was brought at the Education Committee, no, but I would ask Rebecca if there was any other previous discussion that might have been brought up.
Regent Bartel, there was considerable discussion on the changes in the system-level transfer policy, which is where all of the operational detail about transfer now resides, at the last meeting of the Education Committee in June.
Yeah.
But not at this meeting. This meeting just moves those changes into Regent policy.
So you had the benefit of those comments from the prior meeting.
That's right.
That's correct.
So changes occurred as a result of all this.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all in favor of the motion as made and seconded, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed?
And President Spector, that concludes our Education Committee report.
Thank you very much.
Mike,
Mike.
I wanted to mention one thing back from our committee meeting, because they're representatives of the United Council are here, and I wanted to recognize them for the hard work they've done in revitalizing that organization and in representing more than 150,000 of our students. They went on a project to kind of transform the United Council, and I think they've done a great job. And that was evidenced by our committee members who gave them that recognition at our meeting. So I wanted to thank them for being here.
Thank you very much. Next topic's unrelated to the committees. It's really for all of us, which is there's been a draft schedule for our meetings in 2012 distributed. It's in the packets. I think it's agenda item 11.9, if I have it right. Would someone care to make a motion to approve that as our schedule for next year?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion, any questions? We would be outside of Madison at
Going north.
long rides to Superior and Stout next year.
Ed, no problem. Mark, sounds pretty good. That road goes both ways, doesn't it?
Any comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? That takes care of that. Now we turn to a particularly nice part of our agenda, and I call on Regent Crane.
And I will be joined by Regent Gates.
Okay.
And Rebecca Martin, would you please come forward? I have the honor, as the immediate past chair of the Education Committee, to present the resolution on behalf of the work of Rebecca Martin. And I have asked the former chair of that committee, Danae Davis, who also worked intimately with her over a considerable time, to join me with me in this presentation. And I would, both Danae and I, at the reception the other evening, gave remarks about Rebecca and our great appreciation to her. They were heartfelt, and I hope that she knows that. I want to say that as I listened to the work of this morning, the Academic Staff Excellence Awards, and our discussions about possible and probable restructuring of the work of the University of Wisconsin system, I think that the importance of the work of in the academic affairs area, I want to lift that up as extremely important as we move ahead, and that work that has been led so ably by Rebecca Martin. One of the greatest privileges of serving on this body, the Board of Regents, is coming to know and work with the superb administrators, educators, and other employees of our institutions and our system. Most of us who sit around this table are lay people in the educational world. Certainly I am. And I am constantly inspired by and tremendously proud of those who are the real leaders of the University of Wisconsin. I have surely experienced this great appreciation and pride in Rebecca Martin in working with her in the Education Committee during her tenure as Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. The resolution that will be momentarily presented for approval outlines Rebecca's impressive achievements as Provost at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside, and particularly focusing on her role as our system's Chief Academic Officer. Everything that is highlighted in that resolution represents the strengths that I have come to greatly appreciate in her leadership. Her vision, her commitment to the system's priorities, her focus on what's best for students, her strong belief that quality must be at the center of our decisions, her insistence on the priorities of diversity and inclusiveness. I ask everyone when Danae reads the resolution to listen carefully to the whereases in that resolution. They are, I believe, very specific and particular to Rebecca. The University of Wisconsin is stronger because of her leadership in these areas, and her influence will live on. And let me make just a couple of additional comments out of my personal relationship and interactions with Rebecca. I want to first acknowledge that I have learned a great deal from her, and I very much admire and appreciate her considerable intellect and her knowledge of the educational issues of our time. This is certainly borne out by the new position she is assuming in the national arena. We have greatly benefited by her widely recognized leadership. I have appreciated Rebecca's respect for the views of others as we have addressed complicated and sometimes controversial issues. She listens and responds. Yet she is also steadfast and direct in expressing her convictions and her decisions. Very, very important in a strong leader. And I said the other night, and I've got to say it again, as an old feminist, I have to say that I have much appreciated Rebecca as a role model and her support for the importance of building female leadership. We aren't there yet. Finally, from the standpoint of the Education Committee, she has been very effective in building our understanding of the issues, giving us the relevant and important information that we need in order to make decisions. She has encouraged the committee to work productively with the provost, and that has been greatly beneficial, and to appreciate their important work going on our campuses. Rebecca has facilitated and enabled us to provide the direction that staff needs from the Education Committee and the Board of Regents. Rebecca, our very best wishes in your new home and your new position. We know that you will make a difference that will matter in the educational world, and that includes us. The University of Wisconsin will continue to benefit from your expertise and your vision and your leadership. Know that we are proud and grateful to you. We're going to miss you. And I turn it over to my colleague for anything she would like to add to that and to present the resolution.
I have to say, it's been the generosity of Judy Crane to include me in this honor is very much appreciated. So I'm having a hard time. Okay. So all I really want to say, many of you were there, and so I'm not going to repeat everything I said, but I'd like to share with, especially for those of you who weren't there, a few of the descriptive words that I feel personally, and I know everybody in this room would agree with. I said things like quiet leader, someone who walks softly but carries a big stick. I described her as a compassionate leader, a courageous leader. I talked about her being a convener and an effective architect of problem resolution. I talked about her her being a hard and determined worker, someone that constantly demonstrates the need for that. I described her as having values that are particularly important to me, and that is discretion and loyalty. I talked about her being decisive, willing to make the hard calls, regardless of whom she's facing, when making those decisions. And then I concluded by saying that on a personal note, I adore her, and I thank God for our paths having crossed and for the tremendous amount of learning that I have experienced, much like Regent Crane has said, over the 5 years that I've worked with her. I also concluded by saying this is not goodbye, that this is farewell till we meet again, because we are joined. So with that, I do want to read the resolution, and yes, I'm going to read every whereas. So pay close attention. Oh, sure. Sure. Absolutely.
Thanks. Again, I won't repeat what I said at the party that we had for Rebecca the other night, which many of you were at, but I will start with one thought that I did say there, which is that anybody moving to Washington, D.C. in August should, by that very fact, be disqualified from taking a serious job there. So I don't know why they're offering her this job, but I'm delighted for her that they did, because I know it's a job that is very meaningful for her and will be for the rest of us, and it's our loss. Rebecca has been the greatest of colleagues, and the chancellors and provosts who work with her, I know, would agree. She's somebody whose judgments you trust, whose commitments you can share, and whose values you admire. So she's been a very, very important part of the work that all of us have done in the university over the last several years, and I just want to say it's been my honor and privilege to be your colleague.
Yours. Whereas Rebecca Martin has dedicated over 21 years to leadership positions in higher education, including serving as the University of Wisconsin System's Chief Academic Officer since 2007, and whereas Rebecca brought extensive higher education experience and expertise to the UW system, serving as Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at UW Parkside, in addition to multiple leadership positions at the University of Vermont, including Senior Vice Provost, Interim Provost, and Acting President. And whereas Rebecca's vision for quality higher education in Wisconsin emanated from her desire to prepare all Wisconsin residents for work and life in the 21st century global society. And whereas Rebecca played a key role in developing and implementing the UW system's growth agenda for Wisconsin and more graduates initiatives focused on improving retention and graduation rates while supporting UW institutions in advancing academic quality. And whereas through her academic oversight and passionate interest in providing students from all backgrounds and equitable opportunities for education, she positioned the UW system as one of the primary players in the National Access to Success Initiative and guided Wisconsin's involvement in becoming the first state to lead and pilot the Association of American Colleges and Universities Liberal Education and America's Promise, otherwise known as LEAP, and that campaign. And whereas Rebecca led efforts in inclusive excellence, the UW system's framework for diversity and equity, building on 2 ongoing projects that foster positive campus change, namely the Equity Scorecard and Campus Climate Projects. Whereas Rebecca's belief in higher education as a public good is mirrored by her commitment to advancing the arts, libraries, and cultural offerings to communities and populations throughout the state. And whereas she has become a strong leader of the talented staff across the multiple units of academic affairs and offered thoughtful, valued counsel throughout her service to President Kevin P. Riley and university colleagues, be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System hereby offers thanks and commendation to Rebecca Martin for her many life achievements and for her service as the University of Wisconsin System Senior Vice President for for Academic Affairs and wishes her every success in her new position with the U.S. Education Delivery Institute in Washington, D.C. Michael.
Thank you all. As you know, I left the University of Vermont to come to the UW system 9.5 years ago. At that time, I was looking for an opportunity to serve a university that was serious about three things: teaching and learning, diversity, and community engagement. Many universities include these ideas in their mission statements and promotional materials. Very few actually live them. And at UW-Parkside, I found an institution where these values were played out in very real ways every day in classrooms, in campus activities, and in administrative actions. I was very proud to join the team serving that university community. What I did not know before I arrived in Wisconsin was that these principles, so important to me personally, were also key values for this Board of Regents. The clear priorities of the Regents, particularly in the areas of access and inclusive excellence, have been instrumental in driving this agenda at our colleges and universities. It was these priorities that drew me to the role of Senior Vice President. The clear articulation of these values in the growth agenda for Wisconsin was compelling, to say the very least. I can tell you, and Danae, you I know remember this, that my pride in being part of the University of Wisconsin system overflowed when this board approved the holistic admissions policy at the first meeting where I sat as a member of system administration. The opportunity to work with you and our colleagues across the system on making these priorities a reality through inclusive excellence, more graduates for Wisconsin, and LEAP, really three elements of the same agenda, has been the most rewarding undertaking of my career. I urge you all to maintain a clear focus on these values and priorities as you grapple with the challenges facing the UW system in the days ahead. There are far too many people in the system who have joined me in these efforts to mention here, but I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to thank a few of them. First and foremost, the provosts, my partners in providing academic leadership for the system. I couldn't have done any of what has been described here without your full support. The Regents, especially Education Committee Chairs Judy Crane and Danae Davis, who have guided our work in such important ways. The faculty and academic staff representatives who helped me keep the commitment to shared governance in focus at all times. The chancellors, our fiercest critics and our staunchest allies. The cabinet and staff in academic affairs, my colleagues in the daily work, and President Riley providing such clear direction and steady leadership for everything that we do. My connections with all of you have meant so much to me. Finally, I need to thank my partner, Jim, whose steadfast support and infinite patience in listening to me work through myriad problems and challenges that came along with this role have been vital to me. The opportunity awaiting me at the U.S. Education Delivery Institute to focus my work solely on closing the equity and achievement gap for students of color is very compelling. At the same time, the resulting stepping away from this work, this great system, and all of you is extremely difficult, and I will truly miss you all. As I do this, I would like to leave you with the words of one of the heroes of my youth, Robert F. Kennedy. This quote has been honored near my desk for most of my career, shaping my view of the world. RFK said, "Our future may lie beyond our vision, but it is not completely beyond our control. It is the shaping impulse of America that neither fate, nor nature, nor the irresistible tides of history, but the work of our own hands, matched to reason and principle, that will determine destiny." There's pride in that, even arrogance, but there is also experience and truth. In any event, it is the only way we can live. As you move forward, the future of the University of Wisconsin system and its vital role in the lives of the citizens of this state and the nation is in your hands. I trust you will all hold the values that have brought us to where we are today and that will become even more important in the future in the years to come. Thank you very much.
I won't take anything. Apparently.
Well, I give special thanks to Judy and Danae for their very heartfelt, as you said, comments. Very nice. In your folders, there is also a certificate of appreciation for Chancellor Biddy Martin, who is not here. Please read it. We wish her well as she takes on the leadership of Amherst College, one of the nation's premier undergraduate liberal arts schools. I know she will have a great experience there. At our September meeting, we will do what we haven't done today, which is to honor. This is if you don't have enough incentive to come in September. We will honor regents who will be departing. Danae, Stan Davis, who was here yesterday, Ambassador Loftus, and I regret to say Betty Womack, who has submitted, as I understand it, a letter of resignation because she and her wonderful husband Roland are moving off to Texas, where she will be Big Mama for sure. Big Mama. So we're hoping Betty will come back, and we're hoping everybody will be here, and that will give us a chance to say thank you. And perhaps we will have some new appointments by then as well from the governor's office. If not, Danae will still be with us. Tom, I think, has resigned as of today, and Betty as well. So that's what we have to look forward to. Are there any communications, petitions, or memorials that anybody wants to bring up? Tom.
Yes, thank you. I would hope that we would honor today and send to his family a University of Wisconsin graduate, Ronald Asmus, A-S-M-U-S, recently passed away. He was only 53. And I hope I can do this justice, but this UW grad was really the architect of modern Europe. He wrote an article in 1993 at the tender age of 35, laying out a foreign policy for the post-Cold War Europe and the U.S. relationship to it. This idea was so compelling that it became the foreign policy, that he was appointed to the State Department in 1997 to actually help implement it. He was born in Milwaukee in 1957, son of German immigrants, came to the campus to study engineering, and he returned to Berlin to find the house that his parents had come from, and found the country still in turmoil. He was honored eventually because he was accompanied the Secretary of State Albright to Independence, Missouri, to commemorate to be at the signing of the admission of Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic into NATO, which then led to other member countries, even the Baltics, and paving the way for European Union membership of these. It's hard to imagine what a radical idea this was that he had at the time. No one was for this. Even the future of NATO was questioned. But to belong to NATO, these countries had to meet some requirements. A, settle historic border disputes. Now imagine that in Europe. Civilian control of the military, full rights for minorities, and they had to be parliamentary democracies to get into NATO. So the power of this idea of this young man was very compelling. As a side note, the architect of the actual implementation of this was Les Aspin in a program called Partnership for Peace. So I think that Ron, although he was too young to leave us, should be remembered and memorialized, and he's one of tens of thousands of Wisconsin graduates stumbling around the world doing good things. So, thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. This has been a day of very interesting information and accomplishments. Any other petitions, communications, or memorials? If not, we will take a recess for about 10 minutes, and then we will reconvene in open session to consider a motion to go into closed session. Thank you very much.